Well, hello, everyone. I'm trying to wave and look at everyone, and hello to everyone who is on Zoom. My name is Christine Shiau. I am the Executive Director of the STEAMS Initiative at the Aspen Institute. We are a leader in virtual exchange. I'm so excited about this panel and for my lovely panelists, because what we're going to talk about today is COIL in the classroom. It's about the experience of virtual exchange. The virtual exchange field has existed for decades on decades, I would say well over 30 years probably. So the longer I'm in this space, the more resolute I think I am and my team is about providing this type of experience for international collaboration between young people everywhere in the world. These types of experiences are so important because what we're really doing is giving space to young people around the world to really see what the world is like outside of their communities. We're giving the space they need to collaboratively learn together, to be creative, to learn about themselves, learn about others. And that's really the fabric of what our society is based on. It's based on people understanding each other, people learning from each other, and then coming together and solving some of the biggest problems that our world is facing. We talked about the pandemic, we talked about climate a little bit, and the young people around the world, those who are even in the room, you all are gonna be the ones solving these issues, and we're so glad to be supporting you and helping you have this experience that's really going to empower you in the future. These experiences, though, would not be possible without the amazing, committed educators and faculty that we have on the stage now. So I am going to stop speaking and instead allow the panelists to introduce themselves, and then we're going to jump into questions. So, Kelley, you're next to me.
Hello, everyone. I'm Kelley Crowley, and I'm an associate professor of media and communication here at Shenandoah University. And my COIL partner is the wonderful Dr. Mokhtar.
Hi, good morning and assalamualaikum, everybody. My name is Mokhtar. I'm a visiting professor here in SU for now, but I'm actually from International Islamic University, Malaysia, and I guess that's about it. And we'll just continue with our session.
Yeah, thank you. Mira, I think you have a mic.
Good morning, Assalamualaikum. My name is Mira. I'm a full professor in data analytics, and currently I'm heading the center. I'm the director for Center for Professional Development in International Islamic University, Malaysia. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Assalamu alaikum. My name is Sawsan Daraiseh. I'm a professor at Yarmouk University, Jordan, and I teach English language and literature at the English department, but to foreign language speakers. So what I do basically is teach them the knowledge itself and also focus on the, the language as well. And thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you again.
I am Laura Zimmermann. I am from SU. I'm a professor of psychology here who focuses on early childhood and cultural studies.
Amazing. And so it's like international collaboration across Virginia, Jordan, and Malaysia. So it's very, very exciting. So my first question for the panelists is, why is it important to give students the opportunity to learn with their international peers? I guess we're going to kick it off. Kelley wants to go. Okay.
Well, the media gives all of us, but particularly our students, a certain kind of frame in which they see the world. And when you have these opportunities to have these real life, although virtual, but real life experiences, it really expands that frame.
Honestly, firsthand perspective. I mean, you just can't beat that. Otherwise, it's secondhand. It's us trying to talk about other cultures that, I mean, I've never even been to Jordan, hope to one day, but there's just nothing that can replace having Jordanian students and Jordanian faculty speaking to my students, and back and forth. They just discover so many wonderful new things that they wouldn't otherwise.
Yeah. I think that there are so many preconceived notions and ideas about people in the world, and it's always better to give our students and people, a chance at getting to know people face to face, and not getting the information from media or from anybody else. It's always the best thing to do, to give those students that opportunity to make up their own mind about people, how they think, what they believe, and what they say. about different things in the world.
For me, especially because I'm teaching data analytics, to work with data, you need to know the stories behind the data, and to tell the stories about the data, you need to know about the people that you are talking to and whatnot. So this experience especially give a lot of perspective to my students that when we are working with data, it's not only about technical analytics, it's about knowing other people's culture and perspective. So this is really meaningful to me and my students. Thank you.
Okay, so in my case, I think like the scenario in my classroom is like basically we're all like second language speakers. So they have never actually had the opportunity to interact with a native English speaker. So I think like this particular program give them the opportunity to really like interact with the people that they are supposed to share the language. So I think I can sort of like relate to what Laura has mentioned, like firsthand is always good. You know, you have them interact, really get into the experience, and then somehow like that fills the gap that we do not have like as a second-hand knowledge provider. It's not something as good. So this is an opportunity that I would really expose my students to.
And thinking of implementing your COIL courses, so COIL is Collaborative Online International Learning, what can you share with us that were the biggest lessons learned or best practices from implementing your courses? You can start over there. Yeah. Sawsan, would you like to start?
Can you rephrase your question again?
Sure. So having implemented your COIL course, I think this was also your first time, what are the biggest lessons learned or the best practices you can share with the room and for those who are online about your COIL course?
Yeah. Among the best lessons is that, you know, we human beings have to learn, we have to give ourselves the opportunity to learn what is new. And it's really exciting. Trying something out for the first time is really exciting. And you learn things that you would never learn without doing like something like COIL. So I think this is like a new experience that is exciting, that is full of great learning experiences, you know, and this is basically what I have learned from COIL.
Sawsan, do you have something to say about COIL being for credit or non-credit bearing? What do you think about that?
COIL being what?
For credit or non-credit bearing, like in the classroom. Do you have thoughts on that?
That again, can you rephrase the word?
Right. So what do you think about COIL happening in the classroom? Do you think it's important for it to be for credit? So students receive credit, graduating credit for it.
Yeah, of course. For credit is very important because if you give students credit, I mean, like they would like want to work, you know, for the grade at the beginning, I mean, but then they would put that aside and focus on doing the project that they're doing, give themselves the opportunity to like go deep into the projects that they are working on, forget themselves for momentarily, I mean, and enjoy the experience itself and gain, you know, this, you know, wonderful kind of learning, which is like very hard to define and pinpoint because, but I can still say that they're going to learn about new cultures, the culture that they haven't really experienced, let me say, firsthand. The only way like they knew like about people who are in America and the American culture is what they knew through the media. So that's really also amazing. And then they can like, I mean, like experience things through getting to know information through people who are almost like their age also. That makes a difference.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sawsan. Kelley, what do you think?
So when Nora and I put together our COIL course, we were very intentional to think about, let's start with a commonality that all the students would have, which is why we started with a project with McDonald's. And then, and of course, food is a great unifying factor. And so we went from this idea that students could look and see what new foods could McDonald's in Malaysia take to there, and then Malaysian food here in the United States. And so again, we all know this, talking about food is such a unifying factor.
And I think like one of the things that we also considered, at least in my case, I would rather have like an assignment that is like really fun to do, meaning like they don't really feel bogged down by this pressure, oh, we need to somehow perform. So that's why I think we thought of the idea of McDonald's, because I think that's something that they are familiar with and they can actually talk about it because they both have the experience. So having like a fun kind of an activity where they can relate to and they can actually project their ideas, because I think the students now, they are very creative. So thinking about like coming out with the idea of like, what should we bring into McDonald's that's like not something that is there now. So they actually came up with the idea of like putting a fusion between the American thingy with the Malaysian what do you call a dish. So it was really beautiful. I think like I really like the idea because we didn't actually put that sort of like a requirement for them to think about, oh, you need to have something that is infused. But that was something they came up with and it was brilliant. I think I liked that idea and then they had fun doing it. I think they enjoyed it so much. And I think like that is something that we want to see, like not just about making doing something together and it's an academic kind of a thing, but apart from that, they enjoy it. So I think that's how I see how it should be done, that is.
So yeah, I'm going to feed off all of them, right? This idea of projects that will challenge assumptions, really making it fun so they're engaged, but also make sure it's something that can bring out these deeper things, right? So make it kind of simple on the surface, but again, leave opportunities because they are incredibly creative. So you want to leave it open. I would also suggest anybody doing this, scheduling. I'll go with logistics here. The time change can be challenging. All of our students have challenges. So really sorting that out at the beginning of the term, I highly recommend because that helps it go smoothly. So you can kind of set that aside and know you're going to run smoothly throughout the semester.
Mira, before you go, I also should say in preparation, what we've learned for this panel is that if you want to have a good COIL course, you need to pair with Laura.
Exactly. True. Yeah, so from my case, I think what I've learned so much from this experience is that we've been talking about what the students gain, but we forget what we've gained from it. I think as instructors, we've learned a lot. We've learned a lot how to communicate. We've learned a lot how to build expectations. I've collaborated with Yunus once and collaborated with another ladies from Bridgewater College once, and it's amazing experience how we found so many similarities among the educators. So I think we also have to look at it from what we will gain from this experience because the students will learn as much as us as well. So thank you.
Yeah, I definitely think for students, sort of seeing what you all are doing in preparation and the commitment and the flexibility and the conversation, they probably want to mirror that as well when they show up in the classrooms. So, and then thinking of your students, can you share a moment with us where you sort of recognize an aha moment for your students, where you saw that they knew that this was a really unique learning opportunity for them? And whomever can start with the response.
It really was a unique opportunity for particularly the students that did COIL in the classroom. Students from other classes, you know, they would like come to me and come to them and say, like, we wish we registered. If we had known that there was going to be COIL in this classroom, you know, we would have been part of the classroom. And you cannot imagine, like, from the beginning of the semester till the end, these students were excited, and excitement was always like this, you know, going up all the time. So there, you know, when you teach classes, there are times when students are bored, there are boring moments, let's say, but for them, there was no boring moment at all. That was something very, you know, amazing for me to see in my classroom. Not that I'm boring, but yeah, it was like super interesting all the time for them. So that, and I noticed that students were getting out of their comfort zone as well. They were looking upwards more than they usually look because, you know, my students speak Arabic as their first language. So they were, you know, more into the course itself, wanting to learn, wanting to communicate, so they would push themselves to working harder to show that they can also be giving in the project as well. They did not want to show that in any kind of way that they're not doing also half of the work or if not more, you know. So it was really great, yeah, from A to Z, honestly speaking, yeah.
I think, like I've mentioned, the group of students that I have, like second language speakers, second language English speakers. So the thing that I think COIL puts in like a very unique component to my particular program is that like second language programs are like, it's like a lot in Malaysia. It's like really common. But I think like what we have done with COIL is that it sets them apart. So it somehow like gives the students the X factor. I like to use the word X factor because I'm sure everybody knows the X factor, right? So looking into like that particular, what is that particular extra thing that the graduates of IIUM has, is that they have like a one-to-one interaction with the native speakers. So that is the kind of window that I would like to open for them so that they can actually go out of the campus, be done with the university, enter the working industry with that notion, like I can tell my future employers that I have experience talking with and working with the English native speakers. So you should hire me because I have that. So I think that is the kind of a thing that this particular program, this COIL thing, is very good, and it should be sort of like implemented to all like second language speakers, especially English, that is.
Kelley?
I think my biggest aha was when students got together in the Zoom room, and one of the first things they did was, I love anime. I love anime. Who's your favorite character? And so through media was their biggest way to connect. What are you watching? What are you listening to? Oh yeah, the K-pop, us having a long discussions about K-pop. But it's through these sorts of things that they make these initial connections that turn into something deeper.
So our first project, Sawsan and I, was on success. What makes you successful in each of the cultures? And so we both had this idea, we're going to do success. And then I came out of a Zoom room and Sawsan was describing to a student all about leadership. And my first thought was, did we change the topic? And I just forgot, I do this, right? And then we learned the simplest thing. Leadership does not mean the same thing in this country as it does in Jordan. So even in this first project, this little thing that I would have just assumed was the same, right? Turns out it wasn't. And so my students and I then had to talk about, okay, you know how this is what this means for us? It's very different. So when you're working on this project, you need to keep this in mind. So even that little thing right at the beginning, all of us working together going, here's an assumption we had that is wrong. So we really have to be open and understand not everything's going to be the same.
Yeah, there's a lot of aha moments in my case. But one thing that stands out the most is when we have one students group, and they have so much dynamics. I spoke to Melissa, okay, I think this group is totally doomed. They won't work out. But somehow they work it out. And to our surprise, they produce really, really good e-portfolio and good presentations. So we realize that often we want to intervene so much in the group dynamics, but trust me, these young leaders, they have so much to offer to the world, to the level of the world leaders should learn from our students. So yeah, it's amazing. Thank you.
So I think for our panelists, we have some new time COIL champions, those who are implementing COIL for the very first time in their classrooms. Nora, you've done it probably 5 or 6 times at this point. I think Laura, it's the first time, Sawsan as well. Coming at this from your own different experiences, we know that educator capacity is very much limited. So what can you share sort of with the group around how to make time for something that's so important, like this type of innovative learning intervention in the classroom? Even though your time is constrained, what can you share in terms of getting started? Yes, Mira, you should.
In my case, I think what really helps to getting started is to build expectation, to share expectations, especially with the COIL partners. We don't know what is good from our perspective, but it's also good from our partners' perspective. So build that kind of, like ask uncomfortable questions like what happened if things doesn't work out, what happened if the students are not comfortable, ask those kind of questions. And really, it really helps a lot. When I started my project with Yunus, I think we also talk about a lot of issues like that. And to my surprise, Yunus navigate the conversations better because it so happened it's during World Cup. And he kind of dominate the groups with a lot of conversations on soccer against football, all those kind of things, which is, I kind of single out actually, Yunus. But it was really, really wonderful that we started with a lot of uncomfortable conversations, and it really helps a lot. Yeah, thank you.
I would say that some of the situations that were very difficult. Can you
Challenging?
rephrase again? Challenging? You're talking about challenges, right?
Well, it's just educator capacity is limited.
I got
right.
that one. Yeah, some of the challenges that we faced were sometimes the technology at our university. We're from Jordan. Technology is not, always, available. And sometimes the professor, the teacher himself has to also, provide the technology. So I would sometimes bring internet into the classroom that I am in. Sometimes I would have to bring my own laptop and and make things work. And they did. So the challenges were, also sometimes the time. That's another thing, another issue, the difference in time. And how we overcame that, myself and Laura, is that we didn't care about time anymore. We were dedicated to achieve the project. We wanted to succeed. So that's really the most important thing. So when you have like a partner who also wants to succeed, who also wants to make this work and be, beneficial to both the professors themselves and the students, that's really how you really achieve, I think, all challenges, no matter which challenge or what challenge is mentioned, I would say, or that comes up. So that was really something very important. Thank you.
And of course, as my partner, we did a lot, again, scheduling. I know I come back to that, but that is really important to sort out. But to me, that was the main extra time. I've done a lot of experiential learning, and extra time is required. I know many of you have done experiential learning and team teaching, and there is extra time involved. But if it's worth, so Sawsan was saying, you put the time in, and it's just something you want to do. So yes, is it more time? Yes, but it's worth so much more to our students. It's worth so much more to us that it's worth it.
Oh, Kelley's got it.
And this is part of it, is part of our navigation together, figuring out how we're going to work with this class. It's certainly everything that everyone on this side of the panel talked about, but one of the things that we leveraged was letting the students sort of lead themselves. So, they would get together on Zoom, they would get together on WhatsApp, they would get together on Discord, so letting them choose the platform that worked best for them. And again, us sort of nudging them along and letting them sort of cut their own paths, I think was important in part of what we did.
Yeah, we always have this tug of war kind of a thing going on. It's like, Kelley, you go first, me, no, go first. So anyways, I think the technicality is like, you cannot sort of like avoid the issues where technology is concerned. We had so many issues with regards to like, internet connections and whatnot. But I think the most daunting one was the time difference, But what I do, I think like my students will be able to sort of like relate to this as well. I make sure like it's part of the credit, like you mentioned credit before this. I make sure that COIL or whatever project that we do is actually part of the syllabus. So part of the course that I'm teaching. So it's like one form of an assessment. It's a must. So they have to do it to get the grade. So I think that's one of the motivation factor that I somehow need to sort of put out there, because otherwise we're not sure whether they're going to do it, because considering like Kelley's morning is Malaysia's night, and then we get confused whether it's a Thursday or is it a Wednesday or it's a Friday. So I think the same thing, the students went through the same thing, and some of them get really frustrated. So, but then again, with that credit dangling the assessment thingy, they were like, okay, we're gonna have to do this whether we like it or not, make time and whatnot. So yeah, they don't really have a choice, right? But then again, I think that is what makes it work. I think that's why I had to sort of like force that on them.
Was the course always for credit? Did it start off that way?
Yeah, all the time. Like all the 4 is actually like they
Because
have.
that could be an entire conversation, right? Like thinking about starting it, because there are many faculty out there who are so interested in getting started, but working within the complexities of university systems, having the virtual exchange, it seems to be an add-on. And so oftentimes it's not for credit, but that could be an entirely different conversation. But if you have any suggestions or guidance that you want to share with folks on, yes, absolutely. Now, anyone.
Well, okay.
Oh, maybe Mira, go.
Sorry, I think the easiest way, this is one of the things that we do at the center, is if anyone would like to do COIL, you don't have to build your own course. Sorry, Mary, I know you promoted about building the course and whatnot, but I think the most efficient way is to embed to any existing course, and that will enrich the learning process. You still can address the learning outcome, the program learning outcome. Everything can be still addressed with COIL. In fact, it will be richer. So this is what we train at the center.
Yes.
Yeah.
And many campuses have very robust internationalization strategies, and virtual exchange, or COIL, is the great complement to those strategies. So finding ways for the work of virtual exchange or COIL to fit in what's already happening with the university is a great strategy, I think, to take. So sorry, Nor.
So how I did mine was like, I sort of like included it into one of the assessments. So we put so many assessments though, but I have one that is actually for projects. So COIL activities, or the projects that I do with COIL, is basically parked under that assessment. So, and it's like a really large portion, like about 40%, because I think it's a longitudinal kind of a thing. I normally start very early in the semester, and the product of what they have to produce is actually expected at the end of the semester. I think we sort of like did the what do you call the engagement, the student interaction. We sort of like put it like 4 times. You have to somehow connect 4 times, but how they come up with that 4 times, whether they might have to definitely go beyond that. Some of them did like more than 12 meetings just to come up with one particular project. So it's like you need to give them space, definitely, because we need to consider the technical issues, the time difference, and then how they communicate and whatnot. Like some of them are really busy. I think like at one point of time, Kelley students are also like working at night, so they cannot meet during the night time. So they have to somehow meet in the morning, and my students would have to spend like stay awake 10 p.m. at night just to somehow connect. So I think how it works is just basically I would just give them like, we would give them like a general expectation, what is required of this particular project, and then the rest of it we leave it up to them. Like say for example the McDonald's project thingy, we just tell them that okay, we're going to do a McDonald's, you're going to introduce a new meal. It's up to you how you go about doing it, but these are the things that you need to have, and then like everything else, how you're going to put out, what is it that you're going to produce is up to you. So we leave the ideas on how the decisions that they have to make, what they wanted to do, up to them, but they have like a certain framework that they need to follow. I think we decided on that framework. So since mine is like about 40%, so I have like the project that they have to do, and then towards the end of it, they have to write like a reflection as to how, or the process of the whole thing, what happened, how they communicate, what do they learn from it. So that's like another 20%. So the breakdown is something equivalent to that, I think.
Yes, thank you, Nor. Do you want to add something, Kelley? Please.
I just wanted to say briefly that one of the things that I focus on is this is the real world. This is what the working world looks like now. You will be working with people from all over the world. You're going to be fighting time zones. You're going to be fighting technology. So this just isn't about language barriers, cultural barriers of all kinds. So this just isn't a project for a grade. This is a skill that's going to make you, that A, is going to make you a better person in general, but certainly marketable in the world to say that you have worked on projects across time zones and across cultures.
It's the X factor, as Noor had said. So when employers are looking to make hires, they're looking for young people that have these exact skills. So a virtual exchange or COIL is giving young people those real life experiences that are going to translate into the real life world working at a company, because all of those things are absolutely true. It's not easy, right? I have one final question for the group before we open it up to Q&A, and it does go back to the McDonald's project, because I do think it's a fun project. I wish I could participate in it. But it was really this idea around, and Noor, you don't have to be the first one to respond, it's really to anyone. It's the idea of starting with something that's fun and creative. Why is that important? But is that fun and creative mean that it's just a simple project, right? So it's the idea around, why do you start with something simple for the students, but what do you hope that simple project really does embed in those students? Because I think we believe it's more complex than just talking about food, right? It's starting with that. So if you have anything to share there, I think it'd be a great round.
Right, okay.
Okay, Noor.
It would have to be me because I'm the McDonald's person. Anyways, we were actually the things that it was like quite a surprise when we did the observation, when we looked at what happened in the end. They come up with all those things that I've mentioned. I think, like, yes, it started out to be like a really fun, non-stressful kind of a project. They don't really have to think about, like things out of this world to sort of like come up with something that is good. So I was like quite excited to see that they can actually work together with regards to the thing that I mentioned earlier about the fusion idea thingy. That was really interesting because I never actually thought that it's going to come up, but the idea of the process behind it, coming with a decision, with like, giving out ideas, proposing ideas, and then like coming to a decision like, okay, this is what we're going to do. Are you okay with it? And then like supporting, I think like the idea, the things that they have to go through, the process itself, like negotiating, making that decision, making that call. It's not something like very easy for every one of us to do, but and like we are, let's say for example, we're from a different from similar culture, we still argue, right? My idea is better than yours, so on and so forth. But then again what we see here is like these are two different people from different backgrounds, but they can actually come with that idea and agree, oh, this is good, this is what we're going to do, this is what we are going to present. So I think that's the most beautiful experience.
Thank you, Noor. Ladies, Sawsan?
It's very important to choose a topic that is fun and creative, and probably one that everybody can relate to, all students can relate to, because I think at the beginning they'll start by like with something that is very similar at the beginning, and then their definitions and their work like expands. They would think creatively and think about things that probably they would not themselves have thought about, and they would be surprised by even to think about such things. I want to also relate this fun and creativity not only to the students but to the faculty, because myself and Laura, both of us we thought that COIL is also fun and creative at the beginning. She stayed up till 2 o'clock to speak to my students who had a class at 8 o'clock a.m. And she spoke to them for a whole hour. Our topic was about success. I usually start with success because my course is listening and speaking. So I get them to listen to people who speak about their successes in life. And so Laura, because she's a faculty here at Shenandoah and an author, also a child, she writes stories for children. So I think she's completely successful. And she was our first example. And they really enjoyed her talk. They asked her different questions, and she was very open to all kinds of questions. And it was, she thought it was fun and creative, and so did the students, and they opened up to her as well. Yeah, it was really great.
Thank you, Sawsan.
Thank you.
And then I think we can have one more response, and then we're going to open up to Q&A. Do you want to close for us, Mira, on this particular question?
I think it's more to confessions. I don't have fun word in my mind when I design my coil. What I have is something that is relatable. So it was COVID back then when we started coil. So when we discussed with Melissa, what is something that is relatable to all the students? So COVID. Oh, it's all over the world. So, okay, so what is it about COVID that we can talk to the students? Okay, since that you are, I'm teaching data analytics, she's teaching history of math, the only things that common from the two is numbers. So, okay, so let's come up with a project. Eventually we come up with how do you analyze the data in related to COVID, but it should not be coming from your country. So there was a dynamic, which country it is, or things like that. But it's interesting to know that all this, so not fun probably, but something that really opens their perspective that, okay, everyone is actually experiencing what we're experiencing. Everyone relate to the experience that we have. So if the economic sectors in certain countries is down, our country is also affected. So these kind of conversations that we really learn a lot from them. So yeah, unfortunately, I cannot offer any fun experience, but it's very much experience.
Thank you, Mira. And I think with that, we're going to open up to Q&A from the audience. Any questions?
Thank you for that. It's really interesting to hear from your perspective, because of course I've heard from US, UK perspectives on COIL. I wanted to follow up on two things. Well, one is you're talking about the skills that employers, the soft skills that employers are looking for. And I wondered whether, this whole question of global learning skills and how they're identified and how they're measured, and whether you're doing anything to measure the acquisition of those skills after students go through a course with you. That's the first question. And the second question is, have you noticed anybody going through a COIL then being more interested in doing an actual in-person exchange to another country, whether there's been a change in attitude towards and sort of more interest in doing that? Thank you.
Nor and I, one of the things that is really important to us is taking that time for reflection. So we would certainly talk about it before the actual COIL assignment would begin. And students certainly had anxiety over how it would all go between the time and the technology and all the things that we've talked about. But something that's very important to me is they continually reflect. They all keep journals about how everything went, because again, I think that's part of any sort of workplace environment. You're always doing a lessons learned. How did this work? So it's completely relevant to how we measure that.
Okay, I think like one of the things that I would like to just highlight was that prior to having COIL into our syllabus, I've been sort of like supervising students who went out for internship. And I think like for the program that we're having, the international English as international communication, what the industries are requiring is that, okay, have you actually made connection with the people from the US, people from the UK, like not somebody local as in like Malaysians. So that's the thing that actually sort of like pops in my head, like, okay, COIL is actually going to give my students that particular skill that they are looking for. So I think like if you were like your questions about like the skills that the employers look at now, I think yes, I think that is one of the reasons why I'm like sort of like putting this out for my students, so that because I think it's a requirement. They need to somehow be a bit more like a what was it? So we like to use the global citizen kind of a employee. They want to have that kind of a skill. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, about how we measured, let me say, how like the cultural differences that they gain through COIL. Is that like basically what you're focusing on? Yeah, it's also later on we would do like some kind of reflection. Yeah, so it's not with students, like I would ask them questions. They would also come and ask questions, about their discussions with their fellow, let me say, classmates in Shenandoah. And from that, I could tell that sometimes there would be clashes. They would not misunderstand certain things. And I would explain to them, like the time after that, like I would notice that they would make use of the information that they gained as well. So that is like the way to do it. And then there's also something else. Me and Laura, we gave them a questionnaire also. We collected information, and the plan is to collect this, this information now and make use of it in some kind of research. And probably for our following COIL projects, because we do not plan to quit on COIL. I like the idea that Noor mentioned that it's going to be part of the syllabus. It's going to be part of the syllabus for me. So we're going to make use of the information that we have found out and make use of it for future COIL courses. Yeah.
So had to add anything because they're so fabulous in talking about it. But yeah, I think we assess it through the class, right? Everything in our class we're trying to make useful for students to help them move forward and have the skills they need. And I think that's built in. And I think COIL is adding this extra piece. Basically what it's doing is giving us something else to assess, new skills that maybe we weren't able to do before.
Sorry. Yeah, in my case, I'm a nerd, Maria. So I analyze everything basically. So we have the pre-COIL, post-COIL survey. So I can see the difference. What are the factors that really significant and whatnot? Not only in my course. Currently, I'm appointed to have a look at all the program relevance at national level. So I'm helping the Ministry of Higher Education, from medic to engineering to IT, all of the programs. So it is interesting that for programs that actually have these kind of elements embedded into the courses or program level, it enrich the level of students' agility, resilience, and readiness for future workforce. It's really add into those skills. So I think if the university still doesn't really look at the values of COIL, probably they need more Senate members with this kind of experience. Honestly, I'm a Senate member, and to have this experience alone, it's hard to change the institutions. Thank you.
I think we have two questions, one back here and then one over here.
Hi, thank you very much for sharing your wonderful experiences. I have one question for you. In doing COIL collaboration, have you focused also on doing research and publishing out of this work? Thank you very much.
Maybe I can start. Yes, I have published some articles, especially on the skills. Recently, it has been accepted on one of the conference, which I will be presented in Penang in Malaysia. It's one of the conference on global learning. So yeah, I think it has to be amplified. This kind of experience has to be published and amplified. Yeah, thank you.
I mentioned a while ago that myself and Laura have collected the information. So we have the data, and we're going to make use of it to write a research paper which will be beneficial to both students and faculty. The information, it should be made use of for future, let me say, COIL courses. And probably, I would say probably strongly probable, that is very strong, that this would be like a means to encourage, universities and faculty to make use of COIL as much as possible, in the future.
I have already presented, more like I was like a panel for IVEC last year, and we actually talked about how COIL is being done in the Asian continent. So I think that was a very interesting, the outcome of that, like I've gained a few COIL partners from Hong Kong. So I think like that would be like my contribution with regards to research and presentation conferences, and they were really excited to know, like, yeah, even in Malaysia that we're doing it. So not everybody knows that like Malaysia, where it is and whatnot. So what are they doing? So I think that IVEC conference was really good. Like it gives me that kind of a platform to say that, yeah, Malaysia do COIL as well. So I think that's the part of the reasons why we're doing this.
Yeah, so I'll just follow up a little bit on Sawsan. But we do have this data. I did write questions so our students could reflect on it. And my research class, they don't know this, but they're going to actually help code this for us so we can try to pull out differences. So we can code the same thing going, okay, well, what did my students say at the end, right? What did Sawsan's students say at the end? And what are the differences, right? Were certain things emphasized more or were they the same? And so we are going to work on that and ultimately write it up for publication.
Sure. Hi, everybody. Thank you. I think this question is maybe for Sawsan, but obviously for everybody. I think during the panel, you mentioned the fact that your students were really excited about the COIL course, but maybe they didn't know that they were going to be participating in COIL when they enrolled in the course. But then once they did it, they were really excited, right? And I wonder if you or others on the panel have any thoughts about how faculty members or others can effectively message or market virtual exchange or COIL to students or to the university population to say, it's difficult to say, oh, this is a COIL course, right? If people don't know what that is or don't know what virtual exchange is. And so how do we do that? How do we talk about what COIL is or what virtual exchange is to get students excited to join those courses and choose those courses over other courses? Maybe?
Yeah. I can tell you, yeah, they do choose these courses over other courses. I've always been like, a professor whom students love and want to register, like with me, but with the COIL, like over the ceiling, let me say. They have seen now things about COIL at Yarmouk, which is very great. We have to go through the experience and show people. I'm not going to say we sacrificed ourselves. No, we were the lucky people, who went through the experience, and we learned even while doing COIL things about COIL. That's the great thing about COIL, is that you think you know it all, but then along the way, you're still learning what COIL is and what it's doing. And I even think that with the next COIL project, which me and Laura are going to do this semester, we're going to learn more because our semester starts on Sunday. So she's waiting for me, really. But the way to promote it was things that we have already done, like I said. Yunus was amazing. He came to Jordan and he gave presentations and we recorded them. We showed some students who were unable to be there, the presentations themselves. And I also collected like some different parts of the projects that we have done together in a video, which I gave to Yunus also. So I sent it around also, and it already has, like, I sent it like yesterday and it has already 100 likes in Jordan. That's like very hard. So I'm going to distribute the video among students. So they're going to push their professors, and professors who see the videos are going to want, COIL to be incorporated into their classrooms. Yeah. So it's working. It's in the process, and it's gaining popularity. And thank you, everybody who has helped, let me say, work on COIL and make it a success, because it's really something beneficial for faculty and for students, and it's really amazing. Thank you so much.
Another thing to be thoughtful of, I have some of my students who are right here right now who will be taking video, probably interviewing many of you, and having the students be a part of the word of mouth. I was a part of this COIL. It was a lot of fun. The students, it's all about the students, their experience, and them talking about that experience, which is why, come on, guys, stand up, let everybody see you.
Oh, yes. A round of applause.
Thank you. These students have participated in COIL in the past, so they're bringing a really great perspective to it. And when they are in other classes and new students are like, what is this thing that we're doing? And they're able to say, it's going to be great. Right, exactly. So your best promotion are the wonderful students who take the class.
I think that for me, it's like really easy. I sort of like sell. Okay, I will do. Will do. Right. Sorry. I know I have the tendency to hog the phone, microphone. Sorry about that. And yeah, as I was saying, it was very easy to sell the idea because I sort of like put in my experience when I went to study in the UK. Was like I'm a second language speaker, and then go to the UK, like speaking English to a native speaker, but I don't really know what they say. So it's like, okay, I'm speaking English here, hello. But then again, yeah, we don't know how they actually manage the language in an actual, in the country that speaks like English. So I sell that idea to my students and I say, you know, yeah, we are second language speakers, we speak English, but if you go outside of the country, like English speaking countries, you're going to have problems, issues. So I think like that somehow creates that interest, like, okay, I want to speak English the way the native speakers do. So I think that was one of the things that somehow motivates them to join COIL, my COIL project. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Well, that concludes COIL in the Classroom with our lovely panelists, so I'd love to give them a round of applause. And we're just going to take a 10-minute break, and it's actually a perfect introduction because our next session is going to be what the student experience was like, so we're going to be able to hear from our own virtual exchange champions themselves. So stick around.